Hi, welcome back. Episode 16, the big one. Honest Abe, Abraham Lincoln. He was first elected in 1860. He did get reelected to a second term. He did switch vice presidents. So the first vice president was Hannibal Hamlin. And then in the second term, he did select Andrew Johnson. He was the governor the military governor of Tennessee during the Civil War. He was a Democrat, so it was interesting that he crossed party lines. He was trying to, win favor with the South with the, end of the Civil War pending. He did add a couple of states, which is surprising to think about during the Civil War. West Virginia didn't like what was going on in Virginia, and they were like, we're out of here. We need to be our own state. And Nevada also added during his presidency. His wife was married, Todd Lincoln, and his young son did die from the poop tainted water. So that's kind of the last one to die from the poop tainted water. So it seems like maybe they finally figured out the modern plumbing aspect. So that's good news. When he won in 1860, again, the country's obviously super divided. He only won with 39% of the popular vote. So we're definitely heading for civil war at this point. He actually becomes famous from the Lincoln-Douglas debates of 1858. They're running for the Senate of Illinois. He actually loses that race, but because the debates were so famous around the country, and again, obviously there was no TV. All those debates were in the newspapers all around the country, which brought up Lincoln's name all around the country, and he became famous from that. It's interesting too because he did spend some time, about 8 years, in the legislature in Illinois. He only served one term in Congress. It was like 11 years before he became president. So, he wasn't really in government for that long leading up to his presidency. So, during the Civil War, and again, there's so much to cover with Lincoln. There's no way I'm going to be able to cover it all. So I'm just going to cover the things I felt important and hopefully spark your interest in reading the book or traveling to one of the destinations. So I think one thing that's been current events, to tie it to current events, he's the one that got mail-in voting. So there's really nothing more American than mail-in voting. So if anybody tells you different, tell them to go pound sand. 150,000 Union soldiers voted by mail during the Civil War. So no excuse. We should be voting by mail to keep us safe. Whatever. Doesn't make a difference. There's really nothing more American than voting by mail. And he probably benefits historically, or he certainly benefits historically from being assassinated, because he didn't really have a plan for Reconstruction post-Civil War. He spent all his energy fighting the war, no energy preparing for what came next. So, some of his ideas, and this was just, for the time, there were ideas of sending all the slaves back to Africa. There was ideas of repatriating them in a state. They even looked at taking the Dominican Republic, for example, and sending all the slaves down there. There was really no plan to, mix the races at the time. There was just no plan. So who knows how his presidency would have gone? Would he have let all the Confederate soldiers go? I mean, who knows? We have no idea. So he sort of benefits because he dies at like the perfect time. I know it's horrible to say, but I think enough time has passed for me to get away with it. All right. So book recommendations. So they say, and I don't know if this is even true. I've seen and read it so many times, it's got to be true. They say only Jesus Christ has more books written about them. So Abe Lincoln's got a lot. I've only read 2, I guess. The first one is The Team of Rivals, Doris Kearns Goodwin. That's a pretty good one. I think that's what the movie's based on, the Lincoln movie, the guy that won the Oscar. And then the one I read most recently was this one. It is terrific. I really like the books that, again, have when their families came to America. Because ultimately, we're all immigrants, right? So there's never been a Native American president. So I like when you find out how their families came, where they came from. That second book by Ronald White is really, really good. You learn a lot. It's cradle to grave. I like the cradle to grave biographies a lot. Again, there's so many Civil War documentaries and movies, and again, the Lincoln movie you can watch, Passing the 13th Amendment. The Team of Rivals really talks about the passing of the 13th Amendment. You really kind of get an idea of how government works. I think a lot of us don't really want to see how the sausage is made of government. So it's a lot uglier than we like, but it is what it is, right? So, and unfortunately, it seems like our government may have grinded to a halt lately. Travel recommendations, I've got tons. So, Gettysburg, the Gettysburg battlefield, really, a cool trip through one of the big Civil War battles. I remember at the time they probably, it's going to be available online. At the time when I did it, we bought a CD, and you would stop it at each stop, and it would tell you along the way all the different stuff of the Civil War, Gettysburg. Obviously, you can go to Ford's Theater where he was assassinated. That's a cool tour in Washington D.C. You get to go in the theater, and it's pretty moving place. One place maybe you've never heard of is the Henry Ford Museum out in Michigan. It is terrific. You get to see Lincoln's chair, the chair he was sitting in when he was assassinated. But it has all kinds of stuff. You can't even believe this place exists. So if you're ever out in Michigan, the Henry Ford Museum is awesome. And then if you're ever traveling in South Illinois, you can go to Springfield. It's maybe like 3 hours south of Chicago. It's totally worth it. You get to go to the presidential library. It's a nice little tour of they do a really good job with his life. And then you can go to his gravesite, really nice memorials. One of the really giant, there's a period of time now where these memorials were like humongous. And you get to go inside and walk around. It's really cool. And then if you're ever in southern Indiana for whatever reason, you can go to the home where he grew up. So if you're ever driving across southern Indiana, I don't know why you would be, unless you're with me and Nantucket's own, and the pride of Frederick, Brandon Fleming. And he'll tell you, no better person to travel with than me. All right, that concludes Abe Lincoln. Bye for now.